Welcome to today's episode of Talking Point. In our studios today, we have a very distinguished person. He is Vice Chair of BRAC. BRAC is a charity, a social enterprise, an NGO, probably the largest, biggest NGO in the world, employing hundreds and thousands of persons. Our guest today is Dr. Mushtaque, Ahmed Mushtaque Reza Chowdhury. He is the founding director, Research and Evolution Division of BRAC. He has been with BRAC since its inception. He was also the Dean of James P. Grant School of Public Health. He is Professor of Public Health, Family Health at Columbia University, New York. He obtained his PhD from London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine and MSc from London School of Economics, and he is a graduate of our great university, Dhaka University in Bangladesh. Welcome to the show, Dr. Ahmed Mushtaque.
Thank you.
I am really honored and pleased to have you here on this talking point. And it seems that you have brought good weather from Dhaka. Today is bright and shiny today. For the benefit of our viewers, please tell us something about yourself and your association with this very large and well-known organization. That's our pride, BRAC.
Thank you. I joined BRAC in 1977 when BRAC was 5 years old. So I'm not from the day one of BRAC. But after that, I have been with BRAC all my life almost, except for 4 years in the middle when I worked for the Rockefeller Foundation.
Right.
So I was a senior advisor to the foundation based in Bangkok. But over the years, I have had the opportunity to work for BRAC in different capacities. I was, as you said, I was the founding director of the Research Evolution Division. I was overseeing the health programs of BRAC for a long time. And then I was with the BRAC University, founding the James P. Grant School of Public Health. But during this period also, I attended the Harvard University, as we said. I was a research fellow. And then I was a professor at Columbia University.
Which you still are?
Sorry?
Which you still are?
Yeah, I'm still on. I'm still on. But during this period, I have also been involved with several global initiatives. So, for example, Secretary General Kofi Annan, he set up a MDG project in 2000.
What is MDG?
That's the Millennium Development Goals that they all decided to achieve by 2015. So Kofi Annan set up a task force.
Right.
And for each of the task force, there were each of the goals there were task forces. So I was in charge of goal 4 and 5, which are the child health and maternal health.
Were the areas divided? Or was it the entire world was your playground?
Entire world was my playground. And actually, I also worked, there are two coordinators, myself and Professor Alan Rosenfeld, who was the dean at the Columbia School of Public Health. So I also worked in that, which was quite a prestigious kind of thing. So I actually benefited from all these encounters. And then when BRAC decided to go outside of Bangladesh.
Right. When was that?
Well, first we went outside Bangladesh in 2002, when after the Afghan war.
Did you go to Afghanistan?
I did, yes, several times.
I mean, BRAC went to Afghanistan in 2002.
2002, after the war. And then we decided also to try our luck in the sense that whether the BRAC experience is of
the overseas experience of BRAC.
Yeah, that's right. And then we moved to Africa.
Right.
We are now in 5 African countries.
Yes, you have a sizable presence on the continent of Africa.
Exactly.
And you're in South Sudan, isn't it?
South Sudan, in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Uganda, Tanzania. And then we are also present in several Asian countries as well, Philippines, Pakistan, Sri Lanka.
What about our neighbor Myanmar, Burma?
Oh yes, we have just moved to Myanmar.
Yes.
Only a few months ago we have set up our office there.
Right.
And we are now registered both as a microfinance institution and also as an NGO, which means that we can now set up programs in health and education.
Please tell us, I mean, I know it will be a very easy question for you, but for most of our viewers may not be. What drives you? What is the objective of BRAC? I know that it's so vast to see.
Yeah.
Poverty alleviation, improvement of health, improvement of this, improvement of that, making people employed, providing jobs, making education. But how does it happen? What are the priorities? What are the objectives?
Right. Objective, I mean, if you think of the main vision of BRAC, to build a poverty-less country of Bangladesh and now other countries as well.
Right.
And the way we define poverty is that it's not only a shortage of income or employment. Poverty is caused because someone, the poor people don't have access to education.
Right.
The people are poor because they don't have access to healthcare. People are poor because their women are not empowered. So in order to address poverty, you need to address all the causes of poverty.
Right.
So that's why you see that BRAC has programs in all these areas which causes poverty. And we feel that this, unless this holistic approach is taken,
Right.
Poverty will not be reduced or eliminated from the country.
But can I just go back? How do you describe poverty? What is poverty? I mean, to somebody, getting 2 square meals a day, not getting 2 square meals a day is poverty, see? For somebody, not having a bike is a poverty. To somebody, not having a motorbike is a poverty. So it can be different from people to people and in communities to communities.
Exactly, and also from societies to society.
Right.
But the way we look at it, for example, we are in a country where,
In the context of Bangladesh.
in the context of Bangladesh, where poverty is very pervasive.
Right.
If you think of the definition of poverty, the poverty count,
Yeah.
head count of poverty, for example, about 20 years ago, about 60% of the population were under
Poverty line.
in poverty line or under poverty line. Now, fortunately, this has been reduced to about 30% or even less than that. So that's one way of looking at poverty.
Yes.
But you also, I mean, that's a very sort of mechanistic way to look at that.
Yeah.
But then, as a person who has some training in anthropology, for example, we also see the quality of life of people.
Right.
Whether they have access to education, whether their children are going to school, and whether their children not just go to school, but also whether their children are learning anything in school.
There must be something to do with housing too, isn't it? How they live.
Well, housing is certainly important. I mean, that's one of the few standards of living, for example. And if you look at Bangladesh over the years, there has been a lot of improvements in housing even. But obviously there are a lot to be done, particularly now in the urban areas where
Right.
about 28% of the population are urban, and about 1/3 of them actually live in slums.
Yes.
Which is kind of intractable
Well, the slums attract people from rural areas. They come there in search of jobs, you see, and they have nowhere else to live.
Right.
Cheap accommodation.
Exactly.
So they can share a room, 10, 12 persons share a room. Even the garment workers, unfortunately, they are living in slums like that. See.
They do because that's cheapest, and also more importantly, that's within the city, and they can go to their work
Easily commute here.
easily.
They can walk.
Yeah,
They don't have to spend any money on
exactly.
transport. See.
Yeah. But unfortunately, the country and the society is not prepared for that. So we don't have a plan, for example, how to improve the lives of the people who live in slums.
Yeah.
So that's something which is absolutely missing now.
Right.
Do
You at BRAC, do you have any plans to look at slums and try to improve
yes.
the life of these
Yes.
millions of people living
Yes,
there?
we do have programs in the slums. For example, in Dhaka city alone, we run about 2,000 schools, which are the
Yes.
primary schools.
You run about 35,000 schools throughout the country, is it?
39,000.
39,000,
Yeah,
Primary schools, I mean, educate me, I do not know. Is it for 4 years, 5 years?
well, our schools are for 5 years. I mean, they provide full primary education.
Right.
but it's a one teacher, one class school. So a group of students, 33 students, they start with the teacher in class 1.
Right.
And the same teacher goes on the next year, she teaches class 2 to the same group.
Yep.
And that's how it sort of advances.
So you will have 5 teachers.
No, I mean, because we started school and we call that one school.
Okay.
So it continues for up to class 5.
Okay.
And
so
then
next year it will be, the class 1 will not be there.
That's
because
right.
the teacher is teaching class 2.
2, exactly.
So what happens to those boys who are, or girls growing up? They're school going age. They have to wait for another 5 years?
No. Then we set up new schools. That's why we have 39,000 schools now.
Right.
But also, you'll be happy to know that the Bangladesh has been doing very well in primary education. Now, what we call the net enrollment rate, percent of children age 6 to 10, which is the official age range,
right,
going to school has crossed 95%.
Great.
So that's a very good news for us, of course, that we are able to bring children to schools.
This primary school education, is it, when the students go to those schools, does it push up the literacy rate?
It has already because we now have nearly 50% literacy rate. But the challenge that we have now, although we are able to bring 95% of the kids to school, but there are 2 other challenges that we have to address.
Right.
I mean, we as a nation,
right,
the government is a major player, obviously, in these.
True, because they have the infrastructure. They have
infrastructure and also
the power, the money.
The money also, they have about 60-70% of the total schools are run by the government. So there are 2 challenges that are remaining. One is how to keep them in school, because the dropout rate is still high, about 30% dropout before they reach class 5, for example. And secondly, what are they learning in school? The quality of education.
True.
So these 2 are the major sort of constraining factors still sort of still there in our primary education system.
BRAC is a very large organization. I mean, you can afford to look at so many things, see. But I'm sure that there are 3,000 NGOs operating in Bangladesh.
There are more, probably.
Probably more. Aren't there enough NGOs to lend support to the government to do what you said, this is just like monitor the education level, the teaching, the exams, and also what do they do after that?
And
why are they dropping out? What are the reasons? What is attracting them out of their school?
Right.
That's a very young age, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's a very important point. I mean, there are 2 ways that the NGOs are working now.
Right.
One is to provide education, I mean, in the sense that working with the government, but is a kind of a complementary role. So for example, BRAC is sort of doing a second chance education for children who drop out, and also who never go to school.
Right.
So that's provision of education is one thing that NGOs are doing.
We will have plenty of time to talk about this. What is attracting them away from a school, why the drop out rates are so high, and the quality of education. Dr. Ahmed Mushtaque, as usual, we have come almost to the end of this segment, and we'll have to take our commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue with this discussion, that very interesting discussion that we are having about the education, and we'll concentrate on the health matters in the next segment, inshallah. Okay? Thank you, viewers, for being with us. Don't go away. We'll be back soon with Dr. Ahmed Mushtaque Chowdhury from BRAC. He is the Vice Chair. Thank you.